Welcome back to Voices of Vitality, where we spotlight local experts, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help you live strong, active, and independent lives through every stage of your life. Today, I am so excited to welcome Lisa Kirkman. She's a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and founder of Kirkman Nutrition. Lisa takes a functional and evidence-based approach to nutrition, helping people get to the root cause of their health concerns through personalized nutrition and lifestyle strategies. In today's conversation, we are diving into one of the most important and often confusing topics when it comes to aging well, and that's nutrition. We'll be talking about how nutrition impacts energy, strength, brain health, digestion, inflammation, longevity, and overall quality of life as we get older. Whether you're trying to stay active, support a loved one, or simply feel better in your own body, this episode is going to be packed with practical information so you can start applying it right away. Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into nutrition and functional nutrition specifically?
Absolutely. So I've been a dietitian for over 30 years now. And what originally got me interested in nutrition is really my struggles with my own weight as a kid. So I was an overweight child and adolescent, and that kind of triggered me to try to figure it out. You know, it's not fun being an overweight kid. So I was trying to figure out, how do I eat healthy? How do I get to a healthier weight? So that's always been an interest of mine. And then my first year in college, I took just a general nutrition course. And quite honestly, I was sad when it ended. And that's when I knew that nutrition was my passion. I'm like, I need more of this. This is so interesting. So that was the start of it. So I became a registered dietitian, and the specialty of functional nutrition therapy really didn't come about until later on. Probably the 2010s or so, like pre-COVID, is when that specialty really came about, along with functional medicine. Functional nutrition therapy was kind of a subcategory of that. And so what led me to that is, as a registered dietitian, I realized that one method does not work for all people. You know, kind of like the one size fits all doesn't work when it comes to nutrition. So whether somebody wants to lose weight, they want to lower their blood pressure, lower their cholesterol, and the science was going in that way too. You know, a good example is blood pressure. You know, back in the day, we used to think, just tell people to not eat salt, and that will help reduce their blood pressure. Well, that doesn't work for everybody. So I realized that in my own practice, that you can't just give one plan to everybody. It's more of an individualized approach. So I knew that would benefit my practice. And then I also had some personal health challenges where I knew I needed to figure out like the root cause of what's going on, because I was eating a healthy diet, but I had a few things come up with my digestion, and a few other things along the way where like, this doesn't make sense. So I got to get to the root cause. So that's what led me to the functional nutrition therapy specialty.
I think that's great. Can you explain for those people who may not know what functional nutrition actually means and how it's different from just regular, like seeing a regular nutritionist that doesn't have that specialty subset?
Right. So as a registered dietitian, and as a functional nutrition therapist, both are evidence-based. So both practices are heavily based in science. The difference is the functional nutrition therapy takes a more holistic approach. So we will talk about food, supplementation if necessary, and supplementation is usually short term. We also talk about lifestyle factors that impact our health, exercise, sleep, stress. So it's more holistic in that way. The second part of functional nutrition therapy is we look into what could be the root cause of your health condition. Could it be certain nutrient deficiencies? Could it be you're not absorbing enough nutrients from your food? Could it be a medication nutrient interaction? So there's a lot of different reasons. You kind of become a detective when you are in functional nutrition therapy, because you're looking at what is going on with this person versus other people who may have the same health condition.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, what are some of the most common health concerns that you see in your practice, in the adults that you see that are 50s, 60s, 70s?
Right. So a lot of people come with challenges with weight, gradual weight gain. They want to take it off. Maybe they're trying to lose weight, but don't really know how. It's not budging. So weight challenges, digestive health issues is another big one. And usually it's weight and digestion with a few other things sprinkled in. So, by the way, I've got pre-diabetes as well, or high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or I just feel achy and I've got brain fog and my memory's not working. So most people have one concern and then a few others sprinkled in there, but those are the most common ones.
Okay, great. And how do our nutritional needs change as we get older?
Right. So there's certain nutrients that we need to make sure we're getting enough of because absorption is reduced. But a lot of it depends on your food intake and lifestyle. But just to hit on the few common ones, protein is really important, of course, because as we get older, we gradually lose muscle mass. Now, it's not as rapid as a lot of people think, but it is gradual over the years. So protein becomes important. Also, certain vitamins like vitamin B12, because as we get older, our stomach acid production reduces. And stomach acid is needed for absorption of certain nutrients. So vitamin B12 and iron are a couple of those. Vitamin D is super important. As we get older, our skin becomes a little bit thinner. We don't get as much vitamin D from sunshine, either because we're indoors more or because our skin is thinner as we get older and it doesn't convert that sunshine into vitamin D. So vitamin D is important. And then calcium. We don't absorb calcium as well as when we get older.
Yeah, yeah, really important things to keep in mind.
Mhm.
So, some of the biggest nutrition mistakes you see older adults making?
So by nature, I'd like to look at the positive, right? When it comes to
Yeah.
nutrition. So I see it as not getting enough of the good stuff, I think is the biggest mistake. So for example, fruits and vegetables, that's kind of the first thing I look at because fruits and vegetables are going to give us fiber, a lot of our micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, phytonutrients, which are just plant-based nutrients. So those are lacking. That's the first thing I see. And then, when we're lacking certain foods like fruits and vegetables or high fiber foods, it's because we're including other foods that aren't as nutrient dense. So maybe some, processed foods or sweets, those are kind of taking the place of the more nutrient dense foods. So kind of work with my clients on making a few of those swaps. Protein can be another thing that's lacking or skipping meals. Yeah, so those are a few.
Yeah, we see the lack of protein so much in our clinical practice because, our main goal for individuals oftentimes is to build muscle strength. And, we kind of do a very surface level assessment of what they're eating. And we're finding that our individuals are consuming maybe like on a good day, 30 grams of protein for the entire day, which, and to my understanding and my level of knowledge is, not even a third of what they need in a full day for protein.
Right, right. Yeah, good rule of thumb, and of course it depends on your activity level, your size. 20 to 30 grams of fiber per meal is a good amount.
Mhm.
Maybe just at first, starting with 20 to 25. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now you had mentioned several symptoms earlier, things like fatigue and aches and joint pain, brain fog, digestion issues. We have so many people come in to see us and they're like, "Well, you know what? It's just because I'm getting older. Like this is just normal aging." How much of that do you feel like is actually impacted by nutrition?
All of it.
Good answer. I love that.
I'll give you just a few examples just to kind of illustrate the effect. So let's just start with fatigue. All right. always starting with the basics, we need certain nutrients to turn our food into usable energy. B vitamins, B vitamins work as coenzymes to turn our food into energy at the cellular level. So if we're lacking in B vitamins, we're not going to feel the energy even though we're eating. So that's just one example. Fluid intake affects fatigue. Even mild dehydration can make you feel tired. Aches and pains. Aches and pains generally are related to inflammation. So we know that many nutrients are anti-inflammatory, like vitamin E, vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids from fish, really anti-inflammatory. So if we're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, we don't really eat much fish or seafood, we're not getting those nutrients that reduce inflammation, that can help minimize or prevent the aches and pains. And then gut health, that's a whole nother world. Balance in the gut microbiome affects fatigue, aches, brain fog, and digestive health.
Yeah. So we see so much dehydration, like mild, moderate, severe dehydration in our practice. What do you recommend from a volume standpoint per day? Let's take like congestive heart failure or other comorbidities where they may have some type of fluid restriction. But in your healthy aging adult, what do you recommend volume-wise per day of fluid, and what fluids specifically?
Right. So first, I'd like to start answering that by mentioning water is an essential nutrient. People don't think about it that way. It's something we're supposed to do. It's considered an essential nutrient. But yeah, for the average healthy person who doesn't have a condition with fluid restrictions, I go with the dietary reference intake to start, the DRI, and that is 9 cups of total fluids for women, 13 cups of total fluids for men in a day. So that counts your water. If you have coffee in the morning, if you have a cup of tea in the afternoon, that's total fluid intake. But that's usually where I start with fluid recommendations. If you're highly active, if you're outside, doing gardening, going for walks, and it's hot outside and you're sweating, then you need a little bit more fluid intake. Types of fluids, of course, water is the best. But if you have a hard time drinking enough fluids because you're seeking flavor, then, I say, how about herbal tea? Go with like some decaf options. So herbal tea, whether it's a hot cup of tea or iced tea, preferably not sweetened. Seltzer water, if you don't have any GI issues. So going with sugar-free types of fluids is the best, or even thinking about fruit-infused water. Like sometimes I'll keep a whole pitcher of water in my fridge. I'll put in some lemon slices, cucumber, maybe like make a spa water, or you could just do orange slices. And sometimes that's enough to make the water more palatable.
Yeah, I love the lemon in my water. Okay, so I have a question that possibly it's a myth, but this is what I tell all of my patients. Is caffeine like a negative ounces? So like I tell my clients, if you are drinking 2 cups of coffee and your cup of coffee is 8 ounces, you need to supplement 16 more ounces of a non-caffeinated fluid. Is that true or is that false?
It's partially true.
Okay.
So caffeine does accelerate fluid loss, and it's, you don't have to go into the science of the mechanism because we know you drink coffee, you have to go to the bathroom more quickly.
Yeah.
So it does increase fluid loss, but it doesn't get rid of all of the fluids that you just drank. So if I drink an 8-ounce cup of coffee, that doesn't mean that 8 ounces is totally lost in fluids. So it still counts. And I would say 1 or 2 cups of coffee, you don't have to up your total fluid intake really. But if you are an excessive coffee or caffeinated tea drinker, energy drinker, anything with caffeine, if you're doing, I would say 4 to 5 cups a day, then you would need to increase your fluid intake.
Okay, but not relative to how much caffeine you've consumed. Okay. All
It's not
right.
totally erased.
I have a whole list of clients that are going to be thrilled to have me come back this week and inform them of that.
Right.
So we touched a little bit earlier on gut health. And I think that people hear a lot about gut health and they hear how important it is. So why is it so important as we get older?
Yeah. Um, Two reasons. I mean, the first reason is for digestive health. As we get older, digestive function can get a little bit sluggish, especially if we're not having enough fiber, not enough fluids. But more importantly, we need to look at the gut microbiome, right? So that's the balance of the good and bad bacteria that normally exist in our gut. And if that's off, that can further cause digestive health problems. But the first reason digestion or gut health is important is for normal digestive function, normal bowel movements. We don't want gas, we don't want bloating, those kinds of things. But we also want to reduce our risk for things like colon cancer, reduce our risk for diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease. Also, gut health, those gut microbes help us absorb nutrients from our foods. So if gut health isn't in balance and functioning well, it's going to be uncomfortable and then affect many other health issues, such as, and that's kind of the second half of the question, where that gut microbiome comes into play, the bacteria that normally exist in our gut. 80% of our immune system lives in our gut microbiome. 80%.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. And so our immune system is so important as we get older. We don't want to get sick. We're more likely to end up in the hospital or be put on an antibiotic. And then that has, other side effects.
Mm-hmm.
So it affects our immune system. Gut health affects our cognitive health. So memory, brain fog, things like that. It affects heart health. And a lot of people don't know this. They think, oh, gut health affects, whether I'm constipated or have gas. It affects heart health. It affects our blood pressure, our cholesterol levels, and it affects blood sugar management. And type 2 diabetes is very prevalent, or people are at higher risk of type 2 diabetes as we get older. And those gut microbes play a role in our blood sugar management. So there's probably 20 different reasons why gut health is important as we age.
Yeah, it's why it seems like if you just like start there, right? Start with your gut health and everything will just kind of fall into place.
Yes.
Now, I think our listeners could kind of read between the lines of like knowing when their gut health might be off, but just to like bring specific attention to that. What are some of the signs and symptoms that people are going to experience that is going to indicate to them like, oh, I should maybe like take a look at what I'm eating or what's going on inside my gut?
Right. So I say there are some very obvious signs, and then there are silent signs. So the obvious signs would be, if you're constipated. A lot of people don't even know what that means because people usually don't talk about bathroom habits.
Right.
So if you're not having a bowel movement every day, so really once or twice a day, every day is considered normal bathroom habits for bowel movements.
I think people would be shocked to hear that. Shocked.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
have people tell me that they use the bathroom like 2-3 times a week.
Yeah. Not enough. I know, and people don't talk about it, and it's kind of embarrassing to talk about, and I talk about it all the time with my clients, but we don't talk about it amongst each other, and people are
Right.
kind of embarrassed to talk about it to their doctors too.
Yeah.
So they don't know. So constipation, not having a bowel movement at least once or twice a day is a sign something's off, or having too many bowel movements, 4 to 5 a day. If they're looser or if there's diarrhea, that's not normal either. Gas, excessive gas, like every day, that's not normal. If it's just after you eat something that we know could be a gas producer, like beans, okay, that's normal. but every day for no rhyme or reason, that's not normal. And then bloating, and some people don't even know what bloating is. And that's just if your abdomen extends outward, or your belt feels a little bit tighter after you eat. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You feel like your stomach is puffing out. That would be bloating, and that's a sign of some imbalances in gut health. A few of the not obvious signs, or what I call silent signs that your gut is off, is low energy, brain fog, memory concerns, mood imbalance, poor immune function. If you feel like you're getting sick every other month, you have to go on antibiotics. That could also be a sign that your gut microbiome is off, and gut health in general needs help.
Yeah, those are great signs to be aware of for sure. Because I think you're right. I think not enough people know what's quote unquote normal. And so many people just think that what they're experiencing is normal. And so they just live with it when they really don't have to.
Right. And they think, well, that's the way it's always been, so that's normal for me. And I've had clients show up to me in their late 40s and say, ever since I was 8 years old, I had such extreme bloating after every meal. And my mom just told me to lay down, relax, and it'll go away. And she's, the client said, I think thought that was normal. Or same
Yeah.
thing with bowel movements. They just don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. Now, there is so much information online in the media about probiotics and cleanses and supplements. So how do people know what is actually evidence-based and what makes a good supplement, right? Like not all supplements are created equal. So what makes something good versus like maybe you should stay away from that.
Right, right. So, looking for any source of science, on that company's website. So, if I'm looking at a particular multivitamin, let's say that came up in an email and it links me to their website, if there's a lot of salesy information there, a lot of ads, I would just leave right away. If there's some credibility, like, the study, a New England Journal study showed this, or Journal of the American Medical Association says that, you still have to be careful because some people can, have false claims, but look for science on the website of a supplement you're looking at. If you don't really see it, or if it looks too salesy, that's usually a red flag. So those are some things. And then probiotics, not all probiotics are the same. They're very different in strains. And, there's some well-known brands out there that you could go with. But then some, if it's, again, a sales page and it's a miracle, that's kind of a sign is probably not evidence-based.
Mm-hmm. And I know in my own personal life have looked at probiotics too and can attest to the fact that there are so many different ones. How do you know what one is right for you, what one you should be taking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really good idea to ask a healthcare professional for that information. Really, if I were just to give a blanket statement for most people, the most studied strains include like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. So those are kind of the two species of probiotics that we know the most about. So most likely, if it's lactobacillus or bifidobacterium, then it's probably a good combination of strains. Then there's quality involved as well, though, because if your supplement isn't enteric coated, those bacteria, the probiotics, will get destroyed by your stomach acid, and they won't make it down to the lower GI where our probiotics are needed. So you want to look for enteric coated, or, it's coated so it bypasses stomach acid. And companies that are reputable will put that on the label or put that on their website. So those are just a few things to look for.
Okay, great. So now I know nutrition can be a very overwhelming topic for aging adults. I hear it all the time from all my clients, right? Especially because food nowadays is not created the same way that food was created when they were younger. So I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around, like, well, I thought that wheat bread was healthy, or I thought that I was doing a good thing by drinking Ensure. So for people that feel very overwhelmed by modifying their nutrition, what are 2 to 3 small changes that they could make that will make a huge impact on how they feel?
Right. So my personal top three, the first one is target 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. If you're only eating 1 or 2, start smaller than 5, maybe just
Mhm.
try to get 2 or 3.
How would
So
they eyeball what one serving is?
great question. So 1 serving would be about 1 cup chopped fruit or 1 cup of chopped vegetables. So 1 cup, like your measuring cup in the kitchen. So that's a serving. The only difference would be leafy greens, like a salad. A serving would be 2 cups. In whole fruit, it'd be medium-sized banana, medium-sized apple. That's 1 serving. Okay.
Okay.
So 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. If you're not there, gradually at least get up to that level. So that's going to give you your fiber and some essential vitamins and minerals. Second one would be include a source of protein with all meals and snacks, right? So that would be my second. Third would be the fluid intake.
Yeah.
Try to get the 9 to 13 cups of fluids, depending on whether you're female or male. Again, if you're only at 4 or 5 cups, gradually increase, because if we try to do it all at once, we usually say, oh, that's too hard, and we give up.
Yeah. What are your recommended high protein snacks? So I think for people, it's easy to say, okay, well, I can have eggs for breakfast and I can have chicken for lunch and I can have steak for dinner, but I get pushback on snacks all the time. So I have a few recommended, but I'm interested to hear what you recommend.
Yeah. So I think yogurt is an easy go-to. It's got bonuses because it's high in protein. You've got the probiotics in it, as well as, some calcium, which we need. So yogurt is great. Cottage cheese. If you are dairy sensitive, if dairy causes GI symptoms, there are so many dairy-free alternatives available. Maybe not as high in protein, but like soy milk or soy-based yogurt, that's high in protein, so that could be a good alternative. String cheese is a quick and easy snack. Even, just like a piece of turkey rolled up with
Mhm.
a string cheese to boost the protein. I try to go
Oh,
with
I like that. I
yeah,
like that. A little turkey roll up situation.
yeah, yep. Quick and easy is kind of what I recommend. Peanut butter, hummus, that adds a little bit of protein, not super high, but will
Mhm.
add to protein. Nuts. I love a combination of nuts and fruit for a snack because you're getting fiber and then some protein in your nuts. Um, Even a little bit of like tuna salad on crackers. That could be a healthy snack.
That's a good
And
little snack too.
mhm, yeah.
Hmm. I like
So
that.
Whole Foods would be the go-to if you're really struggling to, meet taste preferences, things like that. A protein shake could fill in the gaps. I would do more of like a fruit protein smoothie. So you're
Mhm.
getting in again some of the fiber, phytonutrients. So maybe a scoop of a high quality protein powder with frozen fruit mixed with milk, almond milk, soy milk, any of those. Throw in a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, and then you've got a really good, solid, high protein snack.
I love that. So then for meals, if someone's looking at what does a balanced meal look like, I feel like I'm hearing you say a meal that has fiber in the form of like fruits and vegetables, protein in the form of some animal-based protein, and then a nice tall glass of water.
Exactly, exactly.
Which is so funny because I feel like that's not how many of the clients that I see eat.
Mhm.
We're used to eating a couple pieces of toast for lunch, maybe a small, or for breakfast, a small sandwich for lunch. And then, a lot of times I see my clients are skipping dinner, because they're like, well, I had such a big lunch and I'm not hungry.
Right, right. I mean, you pinpointed exactly. I tell my clients really you only have to think about two things when putting a meal together. Number one, where's my fiber? Number two, where's my protein? And wash it down with a glass of water. And if you think about those two things, you will more than likely have a balanced meal. So with breakfast, yeah, if somebody is having a piece of toast, make it whole grain. Where's my protein? Could be, one or two scrambled eggs, could be a hard-boiled egg, could be a cup of yogurt. So it's kind of easy based on preferences just to add that in. Oatmeal is a great source of fiber. So if you're going to get a bowl of oatmeal, I recommend, the oats provide fiber. Throw in a handful of blueberries. Throw in a handful of crushed walnuts. A little bit of ground flaxseed. Now you're boosting the fiber. Now where's my protein? You can't mix water in your oatmeal and get protein. So I like using, if you tolerate regular milk, use milk for your liquid source in your oatmeal. If you don't tolerate milk, use sugar-free soy milk. Has just as much as protein as regular milk, and it's a complete protein, meaning it has all essential amino acids. So there's an example. Your lunch, whole grain bread with some meat for a sandwich. But then where's my fiber? I would add in a vegetable and fruit, or one or the other. Same thing with dinner, grilled chicken, maybe some green beans. Where's my high fiber starch? Could be potatoes with the skin on, brown rice, quinoa, and then you've got your balance.
Such great advice, because I think that people are looking for like tangible, aside from someone meal planning and prepping for them. I think people just want those examples instead of just saying, well, you have to have protein and fiber. They want what does that actually look like? So thank you for that. I think that's going to be super helpful for people to hear. So moving forward into how people's nutrition impacts their lifestyle, how do you see nutrition helping support people's mobility, exercise performance, and even recovery in your work?
Yeah, it has such a huge impact on two levels. We're talking about the macronutrients like protein, carbohydrate, and fats. So I always start with the protein, but I don't forget to talk about the others. Protein helps with muscle strength and muscle repair. So important, all tissue repair. So if somebody has an injury or recovering from surgery, you won't recover as quickly and completely unless you've got good protein. Carbs are important too. Carbs fuel our muscles. So let's say somebody is, having physical therapy or just trying to move more to strengthen their body. You got to have the carbohydrates. That's the energy source for our muscles to move. And then fats. We can't forget
Well,
about.
can I ask you a quick question on carbohydrates? So are there other ways to get carbohydrates other than breads and potatoes and rice, those sorts of things? Are there other things people can eat to get their carbohydrates?
Yeah. Yes. So I always look for high fiber carbohydrates. So any whole grain will do, but your any like starch or rice should be whole grain. Fruits and vegetables provide carbohydrates. So grains, fruits, vegetables, beans and legumes provide carbohydrates. Some dairy foods not only provide protein, they provide carbohydrates, which is kind of the beauty of yogurt. It gives you protein, it gives you carbohydrate. It serves as a great snack because it's not that filling, gives you protein and carbs.
Great.
And then I was just mentioning fats. We can't forget about healthy fats. So healthy fats that come from fish, healthy fats that come from olive oil, avocado oil, fats in our nuts and seeds, those reduce inflammation in our body. So including those anti-inflammatory fats can really help with exercise performance, muscle recovery, and mobility in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because like I said, we see all the time that nutrition is generally one of the low-hanging fruits that people can change in order to help take them to that next level of goal achievement or recovery. So when you think about people or the clients that you see that are aging well, what habits tend to separate them from those that are struggling in their aging process?
The top two are really nourishing their body with nutrient-dense foods. So it's nutrition and activity.
Yeah.
I call them the non-negotiables. You have to fuel your body with the essential nutrients it needs to function at its best. So nutrition, and then you have to keep moving in order to keep the machine moving. So those are the two things that I see when I work with my clients. If they're, at a lower level of functioning when we start working together, they're achy, they're tired, their symptoms are getting in the way of their food choices and activity level. Once we start to change their nutrition intake, maybe use short-term supplementation to get their body nourished, get, the movement started at a low level, everything starts to work better, symptoms start to improve. It's really the top two.
Yeah. And how do you find that nutrition, or how much do you feel that nutrition influences a person's longevity versus their genetics?
Great question. And there's a whole area of research looking at the interaction between our nutritional intake and our genetic makeup. It's called nutrigenomics. This area of research has been around, I don't know, at least 20, 25 years, if not longer. It's just become more prevalent. So what we know is this. We are all given a set of genes. We can't change the genes in our body, can't change our DNA, but we can change how our genes behave. For example, I have a big family history of cancer, a lot of cancer in my family. So I might think, oh, I'm probably genetically predisposed to getting cancer. What we know is that the foods we eat can't get rid of a cancer gene, but can either turn the volume up on the cancer gene so it's expressed and affecting my risk for getting the disease, or the foods I eat can turn the volume down on that cancer gene so it's so quiet that my body doesn't know it's there. There is a compound in broccoli. It's called sulforaphane. It's a phytonutrient in broccoli, which research has shown can turn down the volume on one of the cancer genes. And that's just an isolated example. So regardless of our genetics, nutrition can have a significant impact on whether you get a disease, even if you're genetically predisposed, or your longevity if you do get diagnosed with that disease. So huge impact.
That is so interesting. So, other than eating broccoli every day to reduce your risk for cancer, what is one message from our conversation today that you would want our listeners to take away with?
Like, I would say the fruits and vegetables category is probably the most powerful, just because there's such a wide array of nutrients in there, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients. Also, all fruits and vegetables are prebiotics. So they feed the healthy gut microbes in our gut to promote optimal gut health. So there's just so much packed in fruits and vegetables that's where I would start.
That's great. And I'm sure that people that are listening will have so many more follow-up questions for you. So, where can they learn more about you or connect with you to learn more?
Yeah. So my website is kirkmannutrition.com. And I can give out my email address too if somebody wants to send me an email to
Yeah.
connect.
Yeah.
It's Lisa, Lisa, at kirkmannutrition.com. And that's KIRKMAN nutrition.com.
Well, great. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and practical advice with us today. I love that this conversation really reinforces the idea that getting older doesn't mean we have to stop feeling good, moving well, or living fully, and that nutrition plays such a huge role in helping us stay active, strong, and independent. And if you'd like to learn more about Lisa and her work, I will definitely put all of her information, the website and the email address down in the show notes, and you can take that and send her a message and connect with her. So as always, thank you for tuning in to Voices of Vitality. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or a family member who could benefit from this conversation. Because remember, living your best life never gets old.